Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're exploring the work of Emma Pierson, a real trailblazer in the world of AI.
Definitely a big name, and for good reason.
We'll be drawing on an essay about her on aivips.org. It's fascinating stuff, how she's using AI to solve real-world problems, particularly in healthcare and social systems.
And with a constant focus on fairness and equity, too. That's what really struck me. She's not just building algorithms, she's really thinking about how they can be used to make a positive impact.
Yeah, that comes across loud and clear in her work.
So where do we start?
Well, the essay lays out her background, and it's pretty impressive. Started with computer science at Stanford, then earned a Rhodes Scholarship, and went on to get a master's in statistics from Oxford.
Wow, that's a powerful combination. I can see how that interdisciplinary background really shapes her approach. Blending that deep technical expertise with a strong understanding of, societal issues that's critical for developing AI that actually benefits people.
Totally. And you see that reflected in her early work, especially in computational social science.
Using data analysis and modeling to study social trends, right?
Exactly. One project that really caught my eye was her research on gender disparities in the workplace. She used machine learning to analyze these disparities, and the insights are pretty powerful.
Yeah, we hear about these disparities all the time, but to see them through this data-driven lens, it really brings it home.
Absolutely. And it highlights how data can be used to inform policy decisions and potentially drive real change.
Speaking of driving change, her move into health analytics is a major turning point.
Big time. Healthcare is a field where AI has huge potential, but it also comes with big risks, especially when it comes to bias and fairness.
Absolutely. It's like, if we're not careful, existing inequalities in healthcare could actually be amplified by AI if the algorithms aren't designed responsibly. And I think that's what drew Pierson to this area. The potential to do good, but also the responsibility to do it right.
Makes sense. It's about being aware of the potential consequences and actively working to mitigate those risks.
Exactly. And one example that really stands out is her research on racial disparities in pain assessment and management. It's really eye-opening.
So it's like AI is giving us this new way to see and understand these problems that might have gone unnoticed before. But then the question becomes, what do we do with this knowledge?
Right. How do we translate these insights into real solutions? And that's where Pierson goes beyond just identifying problems. She's developing concrete solutions, like these bias-aware machine learning models that the essay mentions.
Bias-aware. That sounds interesting. Could you break that down a bit? How do these models actually work to address bias?
Sure. Imagine you're training an AI to diagnose a disease, right? And you're using a huge data set of medical records. But what if that data itself reflects existing biases?
Like certain groups having less access to healthcare, which could lead to incomplete or inaccurate records.
Exactly. So a conventional AI might inadvertently learn these biases and perpetuate them in its diagnoses and treatment recommendations.
So even though it's not intentional, the AI could end up being unfair or even discriminatory based on what it's learned from the data?
Precisely. And that's where bias-aware models come in. They're designed to recognize and correct for these biases. So they take into account factors like socioeconomic status, access to care, and other variables that might skew the data.
It's like building in a safeguard, making sure the AI is seeing the whole picture and not just perpetuating existing inequalities.
Exactly. It's not just about making AI smarter, it's about making it more equitable.
And that seems to be a core theme that runs through all of Pierson's work.
For sure. And it's what makes her work so compelling. She's not just focused on the technical aspects, she's really thinking about the social and ethical implications.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just healthcare, too. The essay talks about how she uses AI to study social structures, particularly through her research on social networks.
I find that fascinating. It's like she's using AI to uncover the hidden patterns in how we connect and interact.
And in doing so, she's revealing some pretty interesting insights about inequalities and access to resources and opportunities.
Like her analysis of workplace communication networks, which showed that women were often less central to these networks. And that could explain, at least in part, why there's still a gender gap in leadership positions.
It's like AI is giving us this new language to understand these complex social dynamics, and that understanding could lead to more effective solutions.
Absolutely. And by understanding these dynamics, we can start to create more equitable systems, not just in the workplace, but in other areas of society as well.
It's pretty powerful stuff. And it shows how AI can be used not just for innovation and efficiency, but also for social good.
I totally agree. It's about using technology to create a more just and equitable world. It's exciting to see, how her work is already making a difference. It's not just theory, it's leading to real change out there in the world.
That's what makes it so compelling, right? It's not just algorithms for algorithm's sake. It's about how these algorithms can actually help create a more equitable society.
What are some examples of, how Pierson's research is being applied in the real world?
Well, her findings on healthcare inequalities, for instance, those are being used to inform policy decisions. Some hospitals are actually changing their pain management protocols based on her work.
Oh, wow. To ensure that all patients are treated equally, no matter their background.
Exactly, thanks to the insights from her research.
So her research is literally helping to improve people's lives. That's amazing. What about her work on social structures? Is that being applied beyond academic research?
It is. Think about her research on workplace communication networks. Some companies are using that to create more inclusive environments, promote diversity in leadership roles.
So by understanding these network dynamics, companies can identify those barriers that might be holding people back and then work to break them down.
It's like she's giving us the tools to build a fairer, more just society, and she's using AI to do it. But I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the ethical considerations surrounding AI. You talked about transparency. How can we make these systems more explainable? It often feels like there's a black box problem where we don't really know how AI is making its decisions.
Right, and that's a crucial point, and it's something Pierson is actively working on. She's advocating for what's called interpretable AI, so building algorithms in a way that lets us understand their reasoning.
So instead of just getting an answer from the AI, we also get an explanation of how it got there.
Exactly. Think of it like having a conversation with the AI, instead of just receiving a one-way message.
Right, right. And does that help build trust in these systems if we can understand how they're making decisions?
Absolutely. If we can understand the AI's reasoning, we're more likely to trust those decisions, even if they're not always what we expect.
And it seems crucial for accountability, too. If we can see the AI's logic, we can better assess its fairness. We can spot potential biases or errors more easily.
Exactly. Transparency is so important for accountability and fairness. It goes hand in hand.
So again, it's not just about making AI smarter. It's about making it more understandable and trustworthy.
Couldn't agree more. And that's one of the biggest contributions Emma Pierson is making, pushing for this transparency in AI.
Now, the essay mentions some pretty technical terms related to her work, like federated learning. What is that exactly, and how does it fit into her focus on responsible AI?
Federated learning is a really clever way to deal with data limitations while still protecting privacy. Imagine you want to train an AI on medical data from different hospitals. Traditionally, you'd have to gather all that data in one place, and that raises all sorts of privacy concerns.
Yeah, I can see how that would be problematic, especially with sensitive health data.
Right. But with federated learning, you avoid that centralized data collection. The AI model is trained on each hospital's data separately, without actually accessing the raw data directly.
So it's like sending the algorithm to the data instead of bringing the data to the algorithm.
Exactly. Each hospital keeps control of its data, but the AI still learns from all of those datasets combined. It's a win-win for privacy and for AI development.
That's brilliant. And that's why it's so promising, particularly for fields like healthcare where privacy is paramount.
Yeah.
The essay also mentions differential privacy, which seems related, but focuses on protecting individual privacy within a data set, right?
Right. Think of it like this. Differential privacy adds a little bit of statistical noise to the data. It makes it much harder to identify individual records while still preserving the overall patterns.
So you're blurring the fine details to protect identities, but the big picture remains intact.
That's a great way to put it. And that's how differential privacy helps us benefit from data analysis without compromising individual privacy.
These techniques sound incredible, but are there any downsides or risks that come with them?
Of course. Like any new technology, there are challenges. With federated learning, for example, you need to make sure that all those institutions involved are using consistent standards and protocols. Otherwise, you could end up with an AI model that's biased towards certain institutions or groups.
So you might be trading one set of challenges for another. Is it a worthwhile trade-off?
I think so. If we can address these new challenges, techniques like federated learning and differential privacy could revolutionize how we use data for good, for social good.
It's inspiring to see Pierson pushing the boundaries of what's possible with AI while always keeping those ethical considerations in mind. The essay mentions bias-aware machine learning models again, but not in a lot of detail. Could you give us some concrete examples of how those models are actually being used in practice?
Sure. Let's take the criminal justice system, for instance. There are concerns that some AI systems use to predict recidivism, which is the likelihood of someone reoffending. There's concern that they may be biased against certain groups, and that's a huge problem because bias predictions can just perpetuate systemic inequalities.
It's a vicious cycle, right? Bias in the data leads to bias in the AI, which then leads to more bias in the real world.
Exactly. And that's where bias-aware models come in. They're designed specifically to identify and correct for those biases. So they might adjust for factors like socioeconomic background or prior interactions with the justice system to ensure fairness.
So instead of ignoring these biases, we're acknowledging them and actively trying to mitigate them within the AI systems themselves.
Precisely, and that's a major step towards using AI responsibly and ethically.
It's a good reminder that these systems are making decisions that have real consequences for people. We can't just treat them as abstract models.
You're absolutely right. There's a human element that we can't ignore. We have to constantly think about who is being impacted by these decisions, the potential benefits, the potential harms, and how to ensure fairness every step of the way.
So it's a big responsibility. But it seems like Emma Pierson is not only aware of these challenges, but also actively working to address them in her research.
She definitely is. And she's inspiring others to do the same. She's a real leader in the field of responsible AI development. The essay focuses mainly on Pierson's individual contributions, but it also touches on some broader trends in the AI field. What are some of the key trends you're seeing?
Well, one trend that's really exciting is this growing emphasis on what's called human-centered AI. So designing systems that are not only technically sophisticated, but also aligned with human values and needs.
It's not about replacing humans with machines, right? It's about finding ways for humans and machines to work together more effectively and ethically.
Exactly. And that requires a deep understanding of human psychology, behavior, ethics. It's not just about the algorithms themselves, it's about the people using them and being impacted by them.
Right. It's a recognition that AI is not just a technical field, it's a social and ethical field as well.
And that's a really positive shift. We need more diverse voices in this conversation. Ethicists, social scientists, philosophers, we need them all to help shape the future of AI.
We need a new generation of AI experts who are not just technically brilliant, but also ethically aware and socially responsible.
Absolutely. And it seems like Emma Pierson is a great example of that. It's amazing to think how far AI has come in just a few years, but it also feels like we're just scratching the surface. What areas do you think hold the most potential for AI to make a positive impact in the future?
Well, I think AI has tremendous potential to help us tackle some of the biggest challenges we face, like climate change and economic inequality.
Those are big ones. How
Yeah.
so?
Well, AI could be used to optimize energy consumption, develop more sustainable technologies, personalize education and job training to create more equitable opportunities. The possibilities are vast.
Those are some ambitious goals. Do you think they're achievable?
I do. I think they're achievable. But only if we approach them with the same rigor, creativity, and ethical awareness that Emma Pierson brings to her work.
It's like she's setting a new standard for what it means to be an AI researcher, combining that technical brilliance with a deep commitment to social good.
Absolutely. And I'm really excited to see what she and others accomplish in the years to come. It's a really exciting time to be working in this field. What's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will get from this deep dive into Emma Pierson's work?
I hope they understand that the future of AI is not predetermined. It's up to us to shape it. We need to be active participants in this conversation, asking tough questions, demanding accountability, and making sure AI is used to create a more just and equitable world for everyone.
That's a great message. We can't be passive observers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to be active shapers of this technology.
Exactly. And Emma Pierson's work shows us that it's possible. She's a real inspiration, and I hope her story encourages more people to use their talents to make a difference in the world.
I agree. It's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play.
Welcome back. We've been deep diving into the work of Emma Pierson, and it's been a fascinating journey.
It really has. From her unique interdisciplinary approach to her commitment to fairness, it's inspiring stuff.
Absolutely. We talked about some of those cutting-edge techniques she's using too, like federated learning and differential privacy.
And what's really striking is how she's taking those ideas beyond theory and making a real impact out in the world. Her insights are shaping policies, driving real change.
Exactly. So let's get into some specific examples of how her research is actually being used. The essay on AIVIPS.org talks about her work on healthcare inequities and how those findings are informing policy changes. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, one of her most impactful studies looked at racial disparities in pain management. It's pretty disturbing. She found that Black patients were consistently undertreated for pain compared to white patients.
That's a really serious issue, especially given how subjective pain assessment can be. How did her work shed light on this disparity?
Her research showed that it wasn't intentional bias on the part of healthcare providers. It was baked into the algorithms and systems used to guide treatment decisions. These algorithms, trained on historical data, were actually perpetuating existing biases.
So the AI was reflecting the inequalities that were already there in the data. How do we fix that? Is it just a matter of tweaking the algorithms?
It's much more complex than just fixing the algorithms themselves. Pierson's work has really sparked a conversation about racial bias in healthcare, bringing it to light. It's raising awareness among healthcare professionals to be more mindful of potential biases, even when they're using AI tools.
That's an important first step. But how are these insights leading to action within healthcare systems? Are things actually changing?
Yes, definitely. There's a growing push for more equitable practices. Some hospitals are actually using Pierson's research to change their pain management protocols. They're implementing bias-aware algorithms that take things like race and socioeconomic status into account.
So they're trying to ensure that everyone gets fair treatment, regardless of their background.
That's the goal.
That's good to hear. It shows how research can really lead to tangible improvements in people's lives.
Yeah.
Are there other areas in healthcare where her work is making a difference?
Absolutely. Her research is being applied to address disparities in a bunch of areas, things like maternal health care, mental health, even access to specialized treatments. It's all about making sure that everyone has equal access to the care they need.
It's remarkable to see the impact she's having. Now, shifting gears a bit, the essay also mentioned how her research is influencing the tech industry. What are some examples of that?
Her work on workplace communication networks is particularly relevant. The tech industry has struggled with issues of diversity and inclusion. Pierson's findings show that women were often less central in these communication networks, which could really hinder their careers.
So she's highlighting those subtle dynamics that can create barriers for certain groups.
Yeah.
Are tech companies using these insights to improve things?
They are. Some companies are using her work to design interventions that promote more inclusive communication. They're encouraging employees to connect with colleagues from different departments, different backgrounds, to try and even out the playing field.
To make sure that everyone has access to information and opportunities, no matter their background.
Exactly.
Are there other ways that tech companies are using AI to promote inclusion, drawing on Pierson's research?
Oh, definitely. A lot of companies are using AI tools to try and identify and reduce bias in hiring and promotion decisions. These tools can help mitigate unconscious bias and ensure that decisions are based on merit, not demographics.
So they're using AI to actually promote fairness and equality.
That's right. And it's a big shift in how people are thinking about the role of AI. It's not just about efficiency and innovation anymore. It's about using this technology for good.
And it seems like Emma Pierson is leading the charge on that. It's inspiring to see her research making such a positive impact. As we wrap up our deep dive into her work, what's one key takeaway you hope our listeners will walk away with?
I hope they realize that the future of AI is something we can shape. Emma Pierson's journey shows us that individuals can make a real difference. We can use our skills not just to advance technology, but to solve problems and create a better world.
That's a powerful message. We can all be part of this effort, right? Demanding that AI be used for good, for the benefit of everyone.
Absolutely. It's on all of us to ensure that happens.
Well said. A huge thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Emma Pierson, and a special shout out to AIVIPS.org for that fantastic essay that inspired this conversation. We'll be back soon with more explorations of AI and its impact on the world. Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better tomorrow.